I'm Katie Kempner, and welcome to Perspectives here at the Ipsos Girls Lounge during Cannes Lion Festival. Right now, I'm very excited to be talking with Meredith Kopit Levien. So thank you so much for coming and talking with me a little bit.
My pleasure.
So you have some relatively new, fabulous gig at the New York Times, right?
Yes, I have to say, there are days that it still feels relatively new. I'm about 11 months in, and I said to somebody last night, the amazing part is I was so excited to go work at the Times. I feel as excited to walk into that building, to walk into the New York Times, to get to represent the incredible work of the New York Times newsroom every single day, and I have not lost that in 11 months. It's an amazing place to be.
That's pretty incredible to feel that way about your job.
Yeah, I do, and what's amazing about the Times, all 3,000 and a few hundred people who work there, I think would say the same thing.
Well, it's a pretty spectacular place to be a part of. Can you, you've had such an amazing career so far and lots more to come. Can you talk a little bit how you ended up in your job where you are now?
Sure. I spent more than a decade working for a man named David Bradley, who originally founded and owned a company in Washington called the Advisory Board and Corporate Executive Board. He ultimately took that company public and bought the Atlantic Monthly and Atlantic Media. Mm-hmm. So that's how I ended up in media, working for him. I worked for him in both of his businesses. That was an extraordinary experience, and I had an incredible mentor there who was a woman named Elizabeth Keffer, who I worked basically for either directly or indirectly for the better part of a decade. Learned so much there, learned probably more than anything else that talent was the most important thing, and choosing the right people to work with and surrounding yourself with great people, people who are smarter than you, better than you, is the whole answer to having success in your career. So that was awesome. Left there 6.5 years ago to go to Forbes. Was the Forbes Life publisher, then the Forbes publisher, then the chief revenue officer of Forbes. Awesome experience, wouldn't trade it for anything. I had a wonderful boss there named Mike Perlis, who probably the first person in my career, I would say.
I know his wife, Margaret.
Oh, Missy, of course. So Mike is the person I would say. Elizabeth Keffer was my mentor, and Mike was my sponsor. I mean, he always say, were it not for him, my career would have gone in probably a very different direction than it did. So he took a big chance on me, making me the CRO there. It was an awesome experience. I had a terrific team. And then when I got the call from the Times, I remember saying to the recruiter, well, I'm not interested in going anywhere, but it's the Times, so I have to go on the interview.
Well, so you've mentioned two people, a man and a woman, that were your three actually, that were mentors to you throughout your career. How important do you think it is to have a mentor, and how does somebody go about doing that? Is it more an organic thing, or do you should you be looking for that in your career?
To me, work is all about people and getting attached to people and wanting to be in it with them and do it with them. And I don't think I would be anywhere that I am without having had really incredible people supporting me, working with me, working for me, teaching me how to do things. So for me, it's been just an utterly critical part of all of it, and I think it is for most people. I always say I've had, I think, the luckiest career. This has nothing to do with me and all to do with luck, that I've just worked for extraordinary people. I've never had a boss I didn't love. I worked for Justin Smith, who's now the CEO of Bloomberg, for my last 6 months at The Atlantic. I probably learned more in those 6 months about how to behave in the workplace and how to get things done than at any other point. And I think choosing who you work for, being lucky enough to sort of step into working for the right person who's going to stretch you, is so much of it. And the biggest lesson Justin taught me was love your people. They want to be loved. You will have a better experience if you feel an emotional attachment to them. And I took a lot away from that, and that's how I feel about the people who work on my team.
In that same vein of loving your people, you said something which is surround yourself with really talented people. Chuck Porter, who's my boss and been my mentor.
And who's awesome.
I mean, he always says that too, that you have to surround yourself with really smart people.
Yeah.
I think, though, that there are a lot of people in general, but I'm a little more focused on women here, that are threatened by that and think, well, I want to surround myself with smart people, but I don't want to surround myself with anyone that'll make me look bad or could take my job.
Yeah.
How do you sort of deal with that? And
I have a really strong opinion about this, and
Good.
that is I want everyone around me, particularly the people who report directly to me, to be, duking it out with themselves and their own ambitions to say, how do I get her job? And I have always wanted that. And it's probably, I always say if you were hugged a lot as a kid, you can hug your own kids a lot. You know how to do that. And I think the same applies at work. I had mentors and sponsors who made me feel valued and that they wanted me to rise. And so I feel really strongly that I want that from the people around me. And I will say, look, I brought a couple of people with me from Forbes to the Times who mean the world to me and who I genuinely believe are smarter than me, have broader range of talent. And I've got some folks on my team at the Times, like Karen List, who spends a lot of time in the Girls Lounge, and other people who I think are incredibly talented, way more gifted than me in the things that they're gifted in. And that's what it takes. I don't think a leader's job is to be great at everything. I think a leader's job is to put the right team together to get done what needs to get done.
So switching gears a little bit, you mentioned hug your child. I know you're a mother.
Yes.
Can we talk just a little bit about your personal life and how you integrate having such a big career and also being a mom?
Yeah, I'll say this. I feel like I'm 43 years old, I can look at a 22-year-old woman and say, I can give you advice. I can, at least from my own experience, say these are good choices to make, or this is a way to set your professional life up. I feel pretty confident in that. I do not feel confident on the balance front, and I don't know if I really know anyone who would say that they, deep in their soul, that they feel like they're doing it well all the time. Somebody said to me the other day that the best piece of advice they ever got about being a working wife and mom was you just have to learn to sort of deal with the fact that you're going to be disappointing someone all the time. And I definitely walk around feeling, when I got on the plane to come here Saturday night and, said goodbye to my husband, knowing I wouldn't be with him on Father's Day, wouldn't be with my son for a week, that stinks. But of course, the minute I touched down, I was so happy to be here. So I don't feel balanced. I feel like I am constantly not doing something as well as I'd like to be doing it. And I think you just kind of learn to live with it. And, you ruthlessly prioritize, even within a day, so that, if my son was sick a couple of weeks ago and that was a sort of drop everything and that becomes the priority. And I have moments at work where I feel like I drop everything and that becomes the priority.
I thank you for saying that, and I think it's really important for people to hear that because they see women like you that really seem to have it all together, and they think, wow, I don't know how I can do that. And I think it's so important for women to say to other women, look, this is really, really hard.
It's ugly behind the scenes. Like the best example I give is I always go like this and I say, I never get a manicure because the idea of sitting still for 40 minutes and letting those damn nails dry without working or talking to my son or getting something done for my husband or, doing 6 other things at once, I simply can't do it. So that's, you don't do other things in your life. You decide.
You decide what you want to do and where you want to spend your time.
And I think the more authentic we are with one another, the more authentic we are with the young women who are coming up behind us, the better experience they'll have. And I'll say Elizabeth Keffer, this woman who really pushed and mentored me, she was pretty darn authentic. I actually had a moment last week where I called her and I said, my son is sick, my mom is kind of giving me a hard time that I'm going to France in 10 days and what do I do? Like, I have to go to France. So it's you call upon one another in those authentic moments and say, I know it wasn't perfect for you either, but how did you get through that moment?
So in terms of advice, I just like to close my interviews by saying, is there one piece of advice that really has helped guide you through your career that you could share with us?
Oh, what a great question. I think it probably is around love your people and love what you do and get really attached to it, because you're going to spend a lot of time. If you have a big career, you're going to spend a lot of time doing it, and it just isn't worth it if you're not totally enamored of the people around you. So choose those people well and then give them your full self. you can give your full self in a lot of places.
Oh, that's great advice. It was a pleasure to meet you.
So
Thank
nice.
you.
Thank you for having me. What a privilege.
Thank you.